So I want first of all to thank Shulamit, where is she? And Shlomit and the organization team for the invitation and for this lovely workshop. It was really, really super interesting for me to hear the discussions and the presentation today from different angles. And I think that we discussed very important issues to gender equality in academia, both the gender and intersectionality and the resistance to gender equality plans. Many things that I face personally during my work as the Diversity and Inclusion Officer at the Weizmann Institute of Science. Weizmann Institute of Science is a very small university, but mainly a research institution doing basic science, and we are located in Rehovot in Israel. And what I'm going to present today is not my work as a diversity officer, but a research I conducted on women in physics. So in the last 6 years, I'm working together with Professor Yossi Nir from the physics department at the Weizmann Institute, and we are trying to understand why so few women pursue an academic career in physics. So while most of the day we were talking about policy and gender equality at the national level and all kind of other aspects related to the gender equality in very broad sense, I'm going to dive into one group of women and bring their stories. So the stories of women in physics in Israel, which is also a specific field. Here is my presentation. Thank you. I don't know how to change this kind of, okay, but let's use it. Is there a place to do a full screen?
These arrows do.
Okay, we'll manage with it. Doesn't matter. So this is Yossi and myself and our work on women in physics, and you can read all about our work at our website. So even if I have only 5 minutes, you can go to our website on gender in physics and see everything that we already achieved, findings, some presentation, etc. So a little bit about women in physics in Israel, and the picture in the world is not so different. So we are in Israel in a very bad situation, but even if you're going to Europe and you're going to the United States, the numbers are not very different. So at the high school, when students can choose if they want to learn physics, and this is a preliminary requirement to go into university in physics in Israel. It's a different system than in other places. 38% of the students are female, so quite good. But then at the entrance point to the university, only 18% are female. So bachelor degree, master's degree, and PhD degree, all three are very important part of your academic part are the same in the last 10 years. 18% of the students are female, but then it drops down again when we get into the academic career. So going out for a postdoc and then coming back and winning a position in Israel, only 6%, now maybe 7%, 7.5% maybe, because we are like 4 years from the beginning of gathering this data, are female. So 93% of the academic staff in physics in Israel are male. In the States, we're talking about 20%, and it's quite the same in most European countries. I won't get into details. So there is a huge problem. And the question is, why do women prefer not to get into physics academic track? And we went into this research together, and we started with 3 very big questions. I'm going to elaborate only on one of the questions and only touch upon it quite quickly. So the main question for this part of our work was, what are the women key consideration of going on a postdoc, and in what way are they influenced by gender? So that's also a very big question to ask. And what we use here is an interdisciplinary approach. We try to understand the intersection between the individual level. So how do you decide what you do? It's in the individual level. Can I speak from here? Yeah, I'll try. The organizational level, no. The organizational level, the institution, physics as a field, how is it related to their decision, and the labor market level. I won't get a lot to that point because it's another story. So a few words about methodology. We spoke today about qualitative data and quantitative data. So what we did here, we try to combine both to hear their personal stories, and we conduct 38 interviews with physics PhD students and with physics postdocs. Most of them were abroad while I interviewed them. So it was very open-ended questionnaire, and we analyzed it based on the grounded theory. And then we did also a nationwide representative survey of all physics PhD students, both female and male, and we have 66% of response rate. So the data we are quite proud of it. We managed to get to most of the population of the PhD student in a country. So if you have to remember only one thing of this short presentation, is this short slide. And this is the main finding, that women's decisions are shaped within a gendered structure. We talked about structures before, in a reality that reduces their freedom of choice and raises the perceived price of pursuing a postdoctoral training abroad. And the important thing that we find, that women feel that they must excel. So if they are not excellent, they will not pursue an academic career, and I will explain about it. So I'm going to touch a little bit about to touch the findings on all the 4 levels. So the organizational, individual, sociocultural, and the labor market level. So I start from the gendered workplace. So just to say a word about Israel. Israel is a very familial society. We like to have a lot of children. It's different than the States. It's different from most European countries, and it affects women in many ways. So one of the things that we saw in the survey of the physics students, that most of them are already married. About 70% of them are already married while they are doing the PhD. It's different from other countries. And 40% of them already have children. So what happens when you're both doing your PhD in physics, which is super hard, super difficult, and having children? So one of the questions that we ask is, who is responsible for most of the childcare work? So what's going on at those people's houses? And what we see are very clear, though we are talking about physics PhD students that come from the higher or the upper socioeconomic background, families, educated families, etc. What we see here, it's 57% of the female, but only 5% of the male students are the primary child caregivers. So you see very clear the gendered work at home. And we saw it also in the interview. So this is an interview I did with Tanya. She was married, with a child and was pregnant while I talked with her, and she was a brilliant woman, and she said, I feel the gender difference mainly from having far fewer hours to work than my friends from the lab. And it becomes a tough gap. You are competing against them, and the comparison is always between you and a man who does not have this problem of childcare. So she said she felt very equal to them when she was without children, but when she became mother, it becomes a very difficult difference between her and her colleagues, though some of them were parents as well. But that's not the only thing. Another thing that we see is gender discrimination within the institution, within higher education. So we asked, we asked, have you ever felt discriminated against? And we checked it in different fields, gender, race, age, ethnicity, language, etc. And what we find here, and during your studies, and what we find here is that most women felt that they were discriminated based on gender, pregnancy, or parenthood, compared to a very small percentage of males. So not only they have double burden at home, they are also facing discrimination at the university. And then, of course, we also ask about sexual harassment. Did you experience sexual harassment during your academic studies? And we see here that 21% of the female and 2% of the male students have been sexually harassed during their studies. So again, not only discrimination, but also sexual harassment is mainly targeted towards women. So just to summarize this short point, so we see here that women face extra hurdles, discrimination, sexual harassment, and we see that the family work places double burden on female students. And what we want to stress is that in the competition against their male colleagues, being a mother is a disadvantage for physicists. So motherhood moves women away from the ideal worker model and label them as less career committed. And it's not only for physics, we see it in other it's not new to research, but it was very clear for us that we find it as well in physics. The other finding I will stress is prioritizing the husband career. So what we saw that internalizing the rules of the gender labor market creates a reality in which women give priority and preference to their husband's career. So he will probably get along better. He will probably get promoted. He will probably get more salary. And then we should prioritize his career instead of ours. So the career sacrifices of the men play a prominent role in women postdoc consideration. So when they consider if they want to go abroad and what will happen when they go for a postdoc abroad with a family, they look at it a little bit different than male. And you can see here the comparison. We ask if you're considering going abroad for a postdoc, how central is this consideration in your decision? And the spouse employment possibility, the spouse and family relocation, and putting the spouse career on hold. And you see that women give greater weight to the consideration of their spouse career. And we see it not only in the survey, we see it also in the interviews. So this is an interview I did with Mary, and she was married with 2 children. And she said after giving birth, there is a shuffle of emotions and insights about life. As much as I was a career woman, I want to be a mom too. So if you are not a career woman anymore and your career is not considered anymore as the leading, it's easier to cross the other side and say, I will follow the husband. The husband is the leader. So prioritizing the husband's career is constraining women's options and pushes more women out of the race towards an academic career in physics. And the last point is about how the postdoc is perceived by the family and the social and the society around them. So we know that the academic career path is very demanding and competitive. And although those students are coming from a, as I said, socioeconomic, very high socioeconomic background, the social and the family environment perceive the postdoc abroad as a non-normative path for women. Not all of them, but some of them. And it creates a situation that women start to doubt themselves. So, am I worthy? Do I have the skill to succeed? It's too difficult. The family is not supporting. And we saw it very clearly mostly in the interview. This is one example of Italy who was married with no children, and she said, even if the husband supports, so okay, we have, young male, usually he's in a high tech and he's a very supportive person and he wants you to go, but then the extended family risks the nose and puts pressure on me not to go on a postdoc abroad. If a postdoc could be done in Israel, it would have been much easier for women. So going abroad, it's still in many families and sometimes in the social norms in Israel, perceived as non-normative trajectory for women and as a normative trajectory for men. And it creates kind of what we call in sociology justification regime. So women feel that they must be an excellent student with high probability of success to justify their choice of a non-normative career trajectory. So if you don't excel, and meaning excellent thesis, and then winning prizes, and then getting scholarships, and then the mentor really supports you, you will leave the race. You decide, okay, I'm not good enough. The prices are too high. I will leave the race. I go to the industry. I go doing something else. And it was also very clear from the interviews here. Just one example, women are also affected by their partner. Not that men are not, but when a man thinks of pursuing a postdoc, a woman is usually enthusiastic to follow him. It's an adventure. Women are more looking at the partner. And if he says no, then you need a really good reason to go on a post. For example, when your thesis is brilliant and the advisor wants you to go, really, really pushes you to do so, then people would say, it's worth it. Then. So it's not only that you have to excel, you have to feel that all the surrounding professional community feels that you can excel in order to pursue this non-normative trajectory. So for a short summary, through the women's stories, we reveal the multiple and hidden ways in which gender operates as a power structure within the family, in physics as a male-dominated field, and within the labor market. And this power structure shapes women's decision and behavior. So women are facing extra hurdles and put the bar for themselves much higher. They choose to pursue an academic career only if they feel they already excelled and they could excel in the future. So what can we do? I just want to say 2 words about what we are doing. So we are part of the Eran network, and some of the presentation today were about European projects of Horizon 2020. So that's another Horizon 2020 project, Gender Equality Networks. We have today more than 40 organizations, universities, and research institutions in Europe all working together to enhance gender equality in physics. We are working on raising awareness. We are working on creating gender equality plans for institutions. We are working together as a network, sharing best practice and knowledge. And we try to support organizations facing resistance along the way of implementing gender equality plans. So, thank you.